Okay.
excuse you. There's nothing wrong with names like Blast from My Sack, Blue Disney
Okay, so
Princess.
I want to talk about this deck really quick because I think people underestimate this a lot, and I actually have a really good win record with this deck. For the reason that I think people are playing this incorrectly. I think people are focusing on the wrong things with this deck, which is like too much Morph and Manifest, and not focusing on abusing the free getting to cast the 3 on everybody's turn, like playing enough of these. Like, what you're noticing, I'm playing every physical one that you could play. Like, I'm playing Leyline, Voldalkin, Vivian. I'm playing Teferi, like the 5-mana one. I'm playing. Where's this card? The Winding Canyons. You know this card?
Oh, okay.
Jeez, this is $50 now. Oh my god. And then also Alchemist Refuge.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so this is one of my babies right now. I've had this deck ever since it came out, and I've been having a lot of fun with Morph. I think that this deck is like super underrated.
You're also in like again that really good color combo too.
Yeah, Sultai. So I'm not running like an ass load of interaction, but I'm just playing the best ones, which is Heroic, Disallow, Cyclonic Rift, Beast Within, Assassin's Trophy, and Archmage's Charm.
I like
Those are,
Archmage's
like-
Charm a lot.
Yeah, those are just the ones because I wanted to have something that doubled as draw sometimes, like if I had nothing going. And also something that made this deck like a trillion times better when it came out is this card. Because the thing that people have to understand about this card in particular is because there's so many ways to draw, like with face down. So like between the Great Henge, Guardian Project, Beast Whisperer, and just Kadena itself, if you have 2 of them out, you're drawing 4 cards off 1. Because like it's drawing 2 off of the Guardian Project and then 2 off of Kadena. So also, I think that people aren't playing like the correct ways to kill too. Like I think Beastmaster's Ascension is ridiculous. Because basically your creatures are just tokens. Like basically you just have an army of 2/2s, right? And like what better way to kill everybody than 7/7s? Like I've killed tons of people with this card.
Mm-hmm.
Like this card's amazing, and it's such a low curve card like to get started. Also Vivian, like I think that this is one that people need to be playing because it not only gets the morph cards and plays them face down, but also lets you cast them at instant speed and lets you cast 1 on each turn. So the thing that people have to understand about her effect, the abusable part isn't like, okay, I'm drawing and casting it for free. It says each turn.
Yes.
So that means that like if I have something that's giving instant speed, which I'm playing like 6 or 7 ways to do that, because it's that important. Leyline being the best, obviously, because it's the free one. Like if you open up with it sometimes, like that's the abusable part of this card. Like the draw is great, but the playing the creature for free on each turn is just ridiculous. It's like basically like I'm storming through the deck, and I think I counted. There's about like 29 manifest and morph cards in the deck. Because I'm not playing all the bad morph ones. I'm playing the best ones that I can, and then like some other manifest cards, which there isn't even a lot of manifest cards to begin with. But yeah, just starting with this. So this is one of the flash, and then you can give a creature vigilance or reach, which is like cute for like a +1. And then it looks at 3 cards. You can get a creature from them and exile it face down, and then you can cast that creature whenever. So the cool thing about that is even if she dies, you still get to cast the creature. Beastmaster's Ascension is just a good way to kill. I have 3 ways to kill in here, which you'll see when I get to it. So this card's broken in here. So, Derek, read this really quick.
Oh, I played this before in an ETB deck. Yeah, whenever you play
Okay, you know this?
a creature spell, you pay 1 in return creature. So because your spells are free, when so you can just sit there 0 mana to morph this face down. I'll pay 1 mana to bounce that to your hand. So 1 mana, you play a potential threat or something. Or it's just a 2/2 for free. You get to draw a card and bounce something.
Okay, but you're not thinking 10th dimensionally.
Or you get to return the thing you just put in the play back.
Exactly. I can reset my morphs if I flip them. Yeah, love Flash even. Yeah. Yeah, she's great, dude.
Yo, it's Spring Break Vivian.
It's mostly because it's paying 1 and getting to loop my morphs. Because like I said, there's not an ass load of them. Like 20 something is still like kind of on the low when you're talking about like tribal, because I don't want to play a lot of the bad ones. Like I've taken out the worst ones and I just play the best ones. But I think this card's degenerate. Like Derek said, you're playing them for free. you understand that I can use this 4 times a turn if I'm drawing constant morphs, which I am almost guaranteed to see morphs if I see another card that draws. So Guardian Project obviously getting to draw when they enter because it's free. This is ridiculous because they are not tokens. The funny thing about Morph is it's one of the most busted mechanics in the game. It gets around so many things. So they're considered creatures. So like it gets around a lot of stuff like that, and they're actual creatures. They're not tokens. They're not anything like that. So it works with all of these effects like this, and it is actually casting too.
Yeah, because you could count because that's how you counterspell them. Because if you think about it, if you didn't cast them, you don't cast them when you morph them. So it'd be like there'd be no wait where
it's considered a special action when you're morphing them also, and it doesn't use the stack until the trigger goes on the effect. So they can't stop things from flipping up. And that's the really cool thing about the one that copies things that I'll explain when I get to it, because he's actually more broken in this deck than any other deck, because he can also copy morphs, but I'll get to that.
Right.
So this is the best
Tom,
flash spell.
hold on, you can keep talking for a second. I'm just going to do a quick bathroom break, and you just keep going.
Yeah, okay. So the ley line is obviously because, you know, giving everything flash is really broken. This is the best one to open up with because you just get to play it for free. And then on turn 3 or 4, which I'm playing every single 2 mana ramp spell to like make sure that I'm getting like to her as quickly as possible. Like because, you know, she is a 4 mana commander and you want to get the jets going immediately. So I know. He's just the worst, isn't he? He just gets up and like thinks he can just, you know, go to the bathroom when he feels like it. But yeah, so now getting into like one of the more broken cards. So this is at the beginning of your end step. You may manifest the top card of your library, and then basically manifest is just like a different version of morph where like it exiles usually the top card of your library. There's some that lets you do it from your hand in this deck. But Manifest is different because you can only play creatures off of Manifest unless you have Primordial Mist, which says exile a face-down permanent you control. You may play that card this turn. So this allows you to play lands off Manifest. It allows you to play like any of the like instant or sorceries or any of the mana rocks or any of the enchantments. It turns it into just every Manifest is value now. And also understand that Manifest triggers Kadena too, which is why
we have returned.
I play a lot of Manifest in here. So, like, Primordial Mist is just, like, one of the most broken cards in this deck. It triggers off Guardian Project. It triggers off her. Triggers off the Great Henge. It's amazing. And then Seeker Plans is a weird one that's a morph-only card. So it's face-down creatures get +0/+1. Whenever a permanent you control is turn face-up, draw a card. So it also, for 2 mana, this is insane. So it makes them able to block better. So they're 2/3s, which is just better. They don't die to Elesh Norn, which is a big thing because I get blown out by Elesh Norn and Void Winnower. Those are my deaths. Because they are 0 CMC, I just get blown out by Void Winnower. You can't even cast Morphs. You just have to play your creatures and lose. And this says whenever they're turned up, you get to draw a card. So it not only are you drawing when they're entering, but now you're drawing when they're flipping up also. And this also works with Teferi's Ageless Insight, which lets you draw an extra card every time.
Jen's going bathroom break, so unprofessional. I'm sorry, my bladder doesn't have the capability to hold back 9 levels of drinks and caffeine.
Yes.
I'm a peasant, apparently.
But yeah, so basically you just want to get down to Kadena as quickly as possible and get to any of these cards that you're drawing extra value, and that's like when the deck starts getting away from people. Like anybody that's played against the deck would know that. This card I think is great. Some people are like half and half about this card. But it says whenever a face-down creature enters the battlefield under your control, so that's Morph or Manifest, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. And then it says whenever a permanent you control is turn face up, if it's a creature, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So for 2 mana, constantly being able to get basics, to me, like, is amazing. Because this card is making it so you're grabbing a land first and then being able to draw. Yeah, time to play Void Winnower in every deck.
Yeah.
It's absolutely the worst. Fucking Chad used to do that and I hated it.
Gaze of Granite for 0.
So, and then there's another flaw in this deck that I'll explain afterwards that I've, like, semi-fixed also. But basically, this card's amazing. Like, being able to get a land and then draw means you're deck fitting too, and, like, usually just drawing it a gas. So Wilderness Reclamation, I play this in Seaborn Muse because the one problem with this deck is that if you're committing a turn to a morph and you want to be able to use it, you don't usually want to commit your mana and play things, or else you can't use the effect of the morph. It's the one folly of this deck that if you didn't draw any of the like low costed morphs that just pay 2 or 3 to like do something, because a lot of them have really high like mana to like activate things, you really need to be able to tap your lands. This is like a huge thing. Like this is where the deck goes from being like a 7 to an 8, like just being able to untap your lands and then having flash. It's like where the deck is an 8. Like if you have these two pieces or Seaborn Muse, this deck is insane. Like it feels almost unbeatable because you're getting to use your morphs the turn they come out and being able to play things and not worry about committing to these really broken enchantments or artifacts that I have. Which is, like I said, the one problem is you don't want to commit your turn to playing like this or this or this because you want to play like this Echo Tracer and be able to bounce something. Like it's the one problem with morphs. You have to sometimes choose between being able to morph and just sitting there and not adding to the board other than 2/2s, which is fine, or being able to like add enchantments to like progress your game. So I play every 2-mana Mana Rock because you want to be able to play her on turn 3 as consistently as possible. Even like over here, I play the Rampant Growth Farseek, Sakura Tribelder to go with like the Guardian Project and Great Hench and things like that. So Crystal Shard, this is a really cool one. So this is another one that can return a creature to its owner's hand for 1 blue or 3, unless they pay 1. So like I can either do it to my own creatures or keep this as like a emergency, like bounce their creature for 1, like if they tap out they don't realize I have the card. Like it's just really good. I play like 3 cards or 4 cards that like bounce cards back to my hand, just because being able to replay the morphs is just as good as having double draws of things, like with a card like Guardian Project. So yeah, and then obviously playing the Signets, like all of them, and then Scroll of Fate. This is a card that I was explaining to Derek that you can also abuse in Blink decks.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing.
Yeah, so you can manifest anything with this, and then when you blink it, it comes back as that card. So I use it for actual manifest. So this is usually just eating my lands and turning them into cantrips if I like overdraw lands. Because I'm not heavy in on land ramp, so like I am playing like 35 or 6 lands or something. Actually, I think I'm playing 35 because my mana, even though you see these high costed things, my mana, because remember, like all of these except for like the hoof is being casted for like 3. So don't look at any of these like high costed things as what they actually are. But yeah, so this is basically just like another one of the getting to draw off of it, like working with Guardian Project, working with Kadena is a really strong card. Also, you could do something cool where like you put a Seaborn Muse or like a Teferi or like something that you, not ETB because you'd be losing the ETB because it's not entering unless you're blinking it. But Manifest does let you play a creature and it gets around counterspells too, which is really broken. Like, because they can't respond to you manifesting the card, which is really sweet. So just like the generic Soul Ring. All right, this card's ridiculous. Even though it's kind of hard for me to cast in the deck, I'm usually casting it for 6 with Kadena. At best, like maybe like a 4 power creature with the Prowling Serpapod or like Temur Sabertooth is like the best I'm usually going to have. But this is amazing. So it turns them all into 3/3s. It's a Mana Rock and also draws whenever you play a Morph. And like combos with Manifest also. Super, super strong. So obviously Thought Vessel because this deck draws 1,000,000 cards. And then this is another one of the best ones. Like the top 2 best. Probably Teferi is actually the scariest one just because you can't interact with my Morphs. And also like everybody hates playing against that card. And I hate like playing that card for the most part, but like I kind of need it because it's just like you have to understand that like without Flash in this deck, just drawing 1 card a turn is really not that amazing. Like the deck ends up being like a 7 if you're just like play 1 Morph, draw a card, play lands, and I have mana open and that's it. Like it just really isn't doing that much. Like you really need to get it going unless the game is going slow and it's like a not as fast of a game and everybody's like gonna win by like turn 9 or 10 or whatever. But yeah, so I'm playing this in everything now. Why not? Balagad Recovery, right? So this is another one of my win cons. Even though I don't have anything that's huge. Actually, I do have some things that get huge, which I'll explain after. A really funny card that's actually won me a lot of games. Because it's just such a rude card and people never see it coming. And it's such a shutdown if you play it in the correct time. But, this is just another win condition. Like, even if you have, like, just a 4 power creature. Like them all becoming 7/7s is usually enough with trample.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage to come
Yeah.
across.
And plus, I like that one because I can recycle it. I wanted one that I could recycle, and I didn't want to put Triumph in because it's a little too easy. Even though I play Crater Hoof, like, you know, but Triumph is a little bit like too degenerate. And I do play Den Protector and Eternal Witness too. So I can recur Overwhelming. So I have had games where I've gone like play Overwhelming Stampede and then either copy it with one of my morphs or like play Eternal Witness or flip up Den Protector and cast it again. That's why I play this one in particular. Yes, it should probably be Triumph. But then the problem with Triumph actually is they only turn into 3/3s. So like that's not the best thing in the world, right? Like they'd only be 3/3s. Like they might just slam into things sometimes if you're playing against like a dinosaur deck or something. And then Rampant Growth, you know, like I said, you want to get her out as quickly as possible. And then I'm just playing the best interaction here, like Heroic Intervention, Disallow, Cyclonic Rift, all this. And then just like, you know, my generic like land spread out. Like the cool ones is the Alchemist Refuge. Oh, the Zoetic Cavern, which is a morph. So like this is technically ramp because I could play this as a morph, draw, and then play it as a land for 2. So like that's also like a cute way to ramp. And then like I said, the Winding Cavern is the other utility land that I play. Everything else is just generic.
Another thing I like about this deck too, that when I played against it a few times, is that there's still this unknown mystery of face down cards. It's basically having cards in your hand. So like you don't know what to target. You don't know what's the potential threat with face down cards. And so, like, you can keep track of when he did them, but, like, you don't know if, like, did he put a Brine Elemental out, like, turn 3 or turn 4? Or is it just, like, or is it, like, a Survivalist or something? Like, you don't know. And it's that level of not knowing. It's like having cards in his hand that are in play, technically.
Yeah. It's like playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Is, like, what I explained to everybody. I basically have trap cards.
That's
the same thing with Foretell.
And I built a Foretell deck, basically.
Yeah. And you can, because there's that black creature that came out that gets makes all the you could foretell everything in your hand.
Yeah.
And then he makes foretell cost less, and then he also gets bonoses equal to the amount of
he gets
cards.
+2/+0 for each card you foretold this turn.
And he's only 2 mana.
There's also another thing. There's another really cool one. It's blue-white. Whenever you attack or enters the battlefield, you draw a card, and then you can foretell any card in your hand.
It's pretty sweet. Foretell is great in standard.
And what foretells, and so funny thing you mentioned this. So Raynar has a similar ability where the first your first foretell card costs 0 each turn, and one of the cards you're on there is Cosmos, I think Dash or whatever. You could it lets you foretell at any turn.
Wait. If you foretell a morph card, can you morph? No, because foretell sets a condition on the card that you cast the card. Well, at least for the black creature that we're talking about, he sets the foretell cost at like 2 minus the cost of the card.
Yeah, he gives it an alternate casting cost.
So no, you couldn't morph off of casting the creature because it sets a condition on the card, I believe.
But isn't also morph is when you cast this card. You may cast this card face down for 3. Yeah, because I think.
Yeah, but foretell is like it's setting a.
Yeah, because the thing is, foretell is putting it into exile face down.
Yeah.
Like there's actually even.
I don't think you can.
Like because foretell cards aren't in play. They're in exile, which does actually matter because that's kind of how Raynar kind of works.
Yeah. So, getting into some of the morphs. You're going to notice that there are some really good effects on some of the morphs. Like, they have a lot of annoying and weird control effects, which is why I love playing this deck, because they all do a lot of weird things. Like, this one pops an artifact or enchantment. Beast Whisper, obviously, to get the draw, because each cast is a draw. So, I'm casting for free. So, like, even the turn after I cast my commander, I can cast this and still cast something for free and draw 2 cards. It's so good. You want to see one of these as quickly as possible, like, just to be able to get ahead in the game. So here's some of the funny ones. So Brine Elemental, this is a mean one. This is actually one of the win conditions in my deck. I have 2 win conditions in the deck. One that I didn't intend to be in the deck, but then I forgot that it's the same thing that can happen in my Rubina deck. But understand, I play 0 tutors in this deck. 0 tutors, right? So this can't happen other than drawing. Like, so whatever you see happens was just luck of the draw. But I do usually draw a lot of cards. So this one is, when it's turn face up, each opponent skips his or her on tap phase. There's two ways you can combo with this. I'll explain the other one. But also, like I said, with the Crystal Shard and with Equilibrium, like being able to bounce, you know, like any of the ones that can like bounce, like that says like return a creature, or you'll see. Also, like I can make it cost less than 7 with Ixidor when I get to that, but I'll get to that in a second. I'll explain this more out when I get to the actual cards that abuse it. But it doesn't hit you, which is the dumb part. And it is a lot to flip, but, you know, worth it. So this is a fun one. I love this one. So this exchanges control of target creature you control, target creature and opponent controls. This gets people, man. Like, this is so annoying. Because I don't have to give them the Chrome Shell crab. So, like, if I have a card manifested, or, like, if I flip, like, just, like, the Survivalist. Like, I give him a Survivalist. This is the best part about the deck, is, like, 900% of the time after you flip a Morph, it's fucking useless for anybody other than yourself. So, like, people, like, this deck is immune to Sultai Ultimatum, or, like, Genesis Ultimatum, or people wanting to steal cards from my deck, because 90% of the deck is built around Morph, so it's just useless to them. Like, if they trigger a Tali, like, they have to get lucky to hit one of just the strong cards, and not, like, one of the 29 Morphs I play, like, because Morphs are just useless otherwise, if you're not building an entire deck around it, you know? Even without Kadena, like, still paying 3 for them, which I did take out Ugin, by the way, because I felt like I didn't need that card 90% of the time, making them cost less, because a lot of the time, like, casting Kadena is just easy enough. So, alright. So, Craterhoof. You know, obvious. Like, this is the best win con in the deck. It's stupidly easy to do this. I usually have 10 creatures by the time I'm even going to cast this, because, like I said, with the instant speed stuff, understand I can play 4 creatures a turn before I get to playing Craterhoof. And, like, especially if I have one of the double draws, like, I'm going to see it pretty quickly. So Derek knows, you remember this card,
Yeah,
Standard?
the Death Mist then Protector combo.
So this is also amazing, because it says whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, you may return Death Mist Raptor from your graveyard to the battlefield face up or face down. So it either becomes a Death Touch blocker, or you get to draw a card off of any of the cards that let you draw when it enters face down. So it's constant recursion. It's amazing. It's like my Gravecrawler in the deck. And then obviously the thing that goes with it, but also it's just a really good card that I still see people playing Commander. Like, I still see this card gets played sometimes. Which is, because people like to play it +1/+1 counters over, like, Eternal Witness sometimes, because it enters with a counter. And also, like, because it has Megamorph. So understand, a lot of the cards that say that they have Megamorph, it means that they also enter with counters. So, like, this isn't going to be a 2/1, it's going to be a 3/2. Which Den Protector adds any card back. It's just like Eternal Witness. Really strong. Echo Tracer is one of the... This just says I can return a target creature to its owner's hand. So these are also good because I can bounce my own. Spell Snatcher was my favorite more. Oh, dude, yeah. Stealing spells. Yeah, like I said, there's just a lot of weird mechanics that people don't even know exist for Morphs, because they've been printed since, like, Legions or something like that. They're very old. Like, very old. Like, this card's old, even though it's not showing the older printing of it. And you'll see when I get to Ixidor that, like, they're very old. But yeah, so like I said, this doubles as being able to bounce your own creatures also. Eternal Witness, you know, it just adds cards back. So Grim Harspec, so they do all count as non-token creatures. So you flip this up for 1, if someone board wipes you, you draw all those cards. This is a great morph in this deck. Like, I've been, like, Wrath of God, and then just, like, flip this up for 1 and drawn, like, 7 cards. Especially since Kadena now, like, you draw off the commander too. This is another bounce card, except it has flying. Okay, Ixidor. So I was actually hoping that they were going to reprint this card in, but it did get reprinted in the list, I forgot. But this is face-down creatures you control get +1/+1, and also it has 3 turn target face-down creature face up. This card used to be $20, and now it's $4. But so it does trigger the morph ability if you flip them up, because the way that all the morph cards are worded is it says when Ice Feather Even is turn face up, like, all of them say that. So Ixidor makes it so that all these high-costed, which I was talking about with Brine Elemental, if you have Ixidor, it's just 3 to flip it up. And that's it. And then there's one that's even scarier with it. So this is my favorite card in the deck. Okay, so this card is such a goddamn blowout if people don't have anything for this. So I want to tell a story about what happened to Bronson. So there is a game that we were playing that Bronson is playing Elementals, right? The new Omnath, the 3-mana Omnath, right? When that came out, he came to the store and he's playing the 3-mana Omnath. He ends up like ramping really quickly and is very ahead of us, has like 10 lands out super quick. And then he plays Gaia's Liege, I think is the name of the card.
Oh yeah.
Right? The one that like animates all your lands.
No, it's it
as
can't.
creatures.
I think you're thinking of something else then. Gaia's Leash is like it can't be targeted by non-green spells.
Okay, there's an elemental that when
no.
it deals combat damage, you can animate any number of lands you control as like 8/8s or something.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. I forgot what that thing is called.
Yeah. So he played that, and then I played Ixodron the turn after and set all of his lands as 2/2s, and he had no mana left.
Rip.
It was a pseudo Armageddon. Also, the best part about this card is it's not manifesting them. It's setting them. So my morphs get to get flipped. And as long as I get Kadena off the battlefield, which how many ways have you seen that I can flip cards? Like a million that I'm playing in here? Like, it's super easy to get her off the battlefield. All my morphs get to get used. And then all their commanders are just set for life. They have to either sack them or kill their own commander. And then also, on top of that, he's +X equal to the number of face-down creatures. Derek, one time, I had an overwhelming stampede, and Ixodron was like a 16/16. And then it just gives it all. Like,
it's like, yo, what's up, all come, my children, let's go.
Yeah, this card's amazing. It's a mass set all your stuff. Also, another card cool that I saw some people were running was Paradoxical Outcome. The one that like bounces all your shit.
And then you draw a card for each one.
Yeah, but I wasn't a fan of it. I tried it out for a little while, but I didn't like it. Okay, so Silencer is you get to counter target ability or an opponent activated or triggered. Any ability. And then Spell Snatcher is the one that Dom was talking about. So this is 6 mana when it's flip faced up. Oh yeah, face that guy in MTGO was not fun. Yeah. So, Spell Snatchers, when it turns face up, it counters a spell, and then you get to cast that spell without paying its mana cost. Gross. It's really gross. And then Mischievous Quainar. This is like probably my favorite morph. So this one is, a lot of people don't know about this one because this is a random one from, I think that's like Onslaught or Legions or Scourge. That's what it is. So, this one is 5 mana to turn Mischievous Quainar face down.
Cruisin said he's heading out for the night. Yo, good night, dude. Thanks for coming to chill and hang out.
We'll see you tomorrow, right? We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow, EDH.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow, bud. Okay, so, this one is, oh god. So Quainar, all right. So this one can set itself, so that already makes it really powerful. And then for 3, you can copy target instant or sorcery spell. So really good with Overwhelming Stampede or any of these interaction spells. Also, like, it can copy opponent spells too. It's not just you control. And it can constantly set itself. Really strong. You're going to notice that, like, there's a morph for everything. So this Insect Druid Mutant. So that just pops Artifact or Enchantment. So Prowling Cephapod, because the entire deck's creatures. So, like, this is, like, a no-brainer to me. Like, just making sure that absolutely nothing that I care about is getting countered. Like, I play, what, like 36 creatures? Like, it seems like a no-brainer to me. I play the Steve because he also works with all the draws. So this is another alternate win con. Salt Road Ambushers. This says whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, if it's a creature, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So it's adding extra counters to everything, so they could turn up as, like, potentially a 5/5 or, like, a 6/6. Seaborn Muse, I already explained that the folly of this deck is having a tap, and this is the god of untapping things. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. This thing kills a creature that's power 2 or less. Stratus Dancer counters an instant or sorcery. Tanglefloor Hedron, because I said I want all the 2-mana ramp, like, as possible. And also, this can become a creature that I could draw if any of the spells that let me draw. Teferi, I already explained this. This is, like, one of the best, like, creatures get flash, and also makes it so they can't interact with my morphs. And then Temur Sabertooth. So, This is the other one that's really good with Brine Elemental or like any of my morphs, because you know this. This is insane. Like paying 2, getting to replay them, it's amazing. It means like I can constantly loot my own morphs. I actually recently put this one back in because I wanted one that can make tokens for any sack decks, and also like this is really good with Craterhoof because it flips up. They all are getting +2 from just this card. It makes 4 1/1s, and if I were to use this even again, it's 8 1/1s. So this card has already made 9 cards just for Craterhoof, and it's a 1 card, and it only flips up for 5. So I wanted something that made it blockers because that's one thing that my deck has trouble with sometimes because I don't usually want to throw my morphs out. Oh, this card's so annoying. People hate this card. So this steals a card off the top of all my opponent's libraries. It manifests the top card of each player's library. And then whenever a creature you control but don't own dies, its controller loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So if my manifest creature that I steal from them dies, they lose 2 and I gain 2.
That's mean.
Yeah, and Derek, this is 4 draws a turn because the manifest I draw off of. It's a really mean card. So 1,000 wins. So this bounces. This is a board wipe. Bounces all tap creatures to their owner's hands. Also, if I attack with my morphs, I can bounce them and replay them with this if I play it correctly. And then this is another value card. This one is it flips up for 3 and says whenever it's flipped up or another permanent is turned face up, you scry 2 cards. So now when my cards are turned face up, I get to scry 2 cards on top of like getting their effects, so I can set up for like later plays. I just think that that's good. So this is the most busted card with Brine Elemental because I can copy it constantly because believe it or not, this flips face up and can copy morph effects. Because it's as it's turned face up, it becomes the copy of the creature. So it can copy all the morph effects. So this just becomes like a second use constantly because it sets itself face down in the upkeep of any of these other cards, which is really broken with Brine Elemental because that just means that they never are going to untap for 2 mana. Because I just keep setting this in my upkeep and flipping it for 2. Void Mage Apprentice is the actual counterspell. It just counters something. Weaver of Lives is really ridiculous. It turns any number of target creatures with morph other than Weaver of Lives face down. So it's a one-time, just flip it up, flip them all face down. And Whisperwood Elemental, this manifests the top card of your library, and then you can also sacrifice it till the end of turn whenever a non-token creature you control gains. When this creature dies, manifest the top card of your library. So all your creatures will turn into more face-down creatures, which is what you want. And then Willbender, great card. But yeah. Just all the cool... I just wanted to go through the creatures because they're like the coolest part of the deck. It just has such cool... Like, it could change the target of things. It can, like, copy things.
Because you have...
It gets to bounce things. It gets to, like, make tokens. It gets to pop, counter, add tokens. Like, it's crazy.
But yeah, you're right. They added basically a morph effect for basically every kind of generic effect, like destroying artifact enchantments, returning something to the hand, drawing a card, counter spell, change abilities.
Yeah.
They gave one for almost everything.
Yeah, it's kind of like Morph is the control version of Slivers. Where, like, Slivers have everything. But, like, Slivers are just way more degenerate. There's even ones that, like, steal a creature and, like, can't untap. And, like, there's more. Like, there's more, but I didn't like a lot of them. Like, there was ones that are just big creatures, like Sagumaller, I think was one that's, like, hexproof or something. And then there was, like, the Quicksilver Dragon or whatever. But they were just big creatures, and I just didn't like them.